Welcome to the New Planner Podcast, where it's all about helping you successfully enter the financial planning profession and accelerate your financial planning career. This podcast will help you understand the profession, become familiar with the various career paths available to you, and avoid the mistakes that limit your success. Join your host, Caleb Brown, to explore the human side of creating a successful planning career through interviews, personal experience, and insights from the trenches. Let's get started.
Welcome to the 178th episode of the New Planner Podcast. This is Caleb Brown, your host. My guest today is Jeff Bramlett, a paraplanner with BDL Advisors in Atlanta, Georgia. Jeff stops by the show to share his story of transitioning into the financial planning profession, starting with how he became interested in financial planning while in high school and how a chance encounter with another financial planning student in college caused him to change his major. Check out the middle where he talks about how he was able to secure a near-perfect GPA while working part-time and volunteering with the Volunteer Income Tax Assistance Organization, and then how he overcame a very tough job market during the COVID-19 pandemic to secure a position in a hybrid RIA. Listen to the end two where he shares why this firm was a good fit for him, why he went through the process and what he gained from it, and what his role entailed and what his biggest fears were when first starting out, to what his role has grown into and what he enjoys most about the profession. If you're looking to learn the business from the ground up, then this episode is for you. Hey, Jeff, welcome to the New Planner Podcast.
Hey, Caleb.
Hey, it's great to see you, man. It's been, 4 years since we were at UGA together. Is that right?
That's correct. It's crazy how long it's been already.
Well, we just want to talk to you about what's gone on the last 4 years. So you had my class, was it COVID year? You were in my class?
COVID year, correct, yeah.
Oh, brutal. Yeah. You guys got to make fun of me when I had that mask and all that crazy stuff. That was awful.
Yeah, it was a tough year.
Just talk to us maybe, because we want to hear about what's been going on, but why did you go to UGA and why did you pick the financial planning major?
Yeah, absolutely. Early high school, maybe even 8th grade, I started getting into economics. I started to enjoy finance, and I found myself kind of pursuing that path of finance. Always wanted to go to UGA and was able to figure that out by transferring. So I transferred my junior year to UGA, and originally I was actually headed in the finance degree, and I come across a friend that had mentioned the financial planning program and gave it a shot, went over and actually changed my major quite quickly. It just seemed like it just kind of fell in the right places and started pursuing financial planning.
Wait a minute. I just want to stop you right there for a minute. So you had a friend who mentioned the financial planning major or was in the major or both?
He was in the major at the time.
And what was so appealing to it? It's not the business school. They get knocked all the time. Like, why do that? That was a pretty massive shift.
It was a big shift, but you know what? It was a shift to something that I was wanting to do. Finance to me actually didn't really kind of fit what I was wanting to do. Hearing about financial planning, I was like, this is actually what I want to do. This sounds more like what I'm looking for. So to me, it was an easy shift. I really didn't think on it much because it really fell right into place, honestly.
Got it. Sounds great. I interrupted you, so keep going. So you changed your major, and then what happened?
So I changed my major. So that was the fall of 2019, because I did basically a year and a semester. It worked out perfectly. Everything went over except for a capitalism class in Terry. Everything else, smooth transition. I was able to graduate 4 years. So graduated from UGA. Program was great, and I just really enjoyed it. It frankly was really what I was looking for.
So didn't you get a 4.0 or something like that? I remember seeing that. Was that you, or did I mix you up with somebody else?
No, I was close. So actually my only B was capitalism. That was a class that I did not need. And and then, the plus minus system. So I had a few of those, I think the A minuses are 3.7. So those kind of hurt. I
get it. You do well, on grades, but how do you get a 4.0? What were you doing? Are you just a good test taker? I'm admiring, somebody with a solid, what I think I had like a 3.1 GPA was terrible. How do you do that?
I would say I'm a good test taker. That helps a lot. Being able to come in on the day and keep your nerves down and actually perform, that's super important. Doesn't matter how well you study. If you can't perform on that day, that's a hard thing to overcome. Other than that, I kind of knew my system and what worked well and how I like to study. And I stuck to it.
Yeah, that's great. I think there's a lot there. Find a system that works for you, how you like to learn, how you like to study. And, for some people, it's just doing questions. Some people it's doing flashcards. Some people it's just cramming. I had a roommate in college, he wouldn't do anything until about 24 hours ahead of time and then would go in and just pull it off. It was just, I am so jealous.
Yep. That's a lot of what I would do, actually. Cramming was a large part of my process, but just taking good notes. I've done flashcards maybe 3 or 4 times in my life, and I've hated it every single time. But some people, it works very well, and I get it. But to me, it just hasn't worked for me.
So you did well on the academic side. And then what did you do while you were at UGA? Any internships or any volunteerism or anything there?
I did, I worked part-time, various things. I did the UGA golf course at a time. So I had a few jobs there. Then I did the tax. I can't remember what it's called. It started with a V. VITA.
Oh, VITA.
VITA.
Yeah.
Yep. I did VITA with Palmer. And that was really it.
And talk to us about your VITA experience. I mean, was that for the new planners that are listening? I mean, is that worthwhile? I mean, because I kind of recommend that a lot when I talk to people looking for additional skills and experiences.
Absolutely. VITA was great. It's also a great thing to put on your resume. But the exposure, especially as a young college kid that, doesn't have that exposure, it's an easy way to get exposure. And you're dealing with real clients, real people, real situations. I think it's a great thing to do.
And for some of the people that don't know what that is, just explain what the program is and what you do and what you got out of it.
Yeah, you're really just focused on tax returns, ordinary people coming in. They could be as simple as, here's a W-2, and then you have some, they're coming in with 1099s, but you're really just doing personal income tax.
And that's obviously helpful because you could go to a financial planning firm where you're having to do that, or at least be familiar with the schedules and looking through things and gathering the information, and then also, walking them through. I mean, a lot of the firms that we deal with aren't doing tax prep, they're doing tax planning, but the sooner you can get exposure to that, the better off you're going to be.
Yeah, even if you don't think you're going to use it. I didn't have any intentions of being a CPA, but like you said, it's still involved in the financial planning process. It's still a piece to the puzzle, but more importantly, it's getting that face-to-face exposure, with essentially clients, with day-to-day ordinary people. It was really valuable to me.
Okay, so then you graduated. Okay, so this was a tough time. So let's see, it was May of 2020. Is that when you graduated?
Yes, sir.
Ouch. Oh, yeah. Man. I know what the job situation was, but from your perspective, what was the job prospects? What were they looking like?
Oh, everyone around you, people that had things lined up for months, everything was gone. Everyone was pretty much given a clean slate. And so pretty much everyone was going into that summer with nothing. It was a tough job market, and I struggled for months, as did a lot of people. So that job market, it didn't exist.
How'd that make you feel? And then how did you overcome?
There were still, you hear people getting opportunities, and those people were people that were putting themselves out there, utilizing their resources, other channels. And I just stuck to it. I knew what I wanted to do, and I knew, where I wanted to go, and I used the resources around me, and it definitely took longer than I would have liked to. But I knew I would get there. It was just a matter of time.
Yeah, because it looks like I don't know, you graduated in May, and I think you started October. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess a lot of you want to start. Well, here's what I'm getting recently. It's like, hey, graduate in May, gonna go to Europe for a month, and then I'd love to start like July or August. We're like, man, that is nice. That is really cool.
Oh, yeah. Would love that.
I graduated, I was studying for the CFP exam. I was like, probably should have done the Europe trip. So it was a 5 months. So what were you doing in those 5 months?
I can't remember what I did actually to pick up that slack. I moved home. I lived at home for a little while. I really don't think I was doing anything special other than exercising and staying up to date. I mean, not letting myself maybe drift off. I think having a plan and sticking to it was really important. So I did have the luxury of being able to move back home and focus on myself and not be burdened with paying rent or, being able to support myself independently. That was a luxury.
Yeah, I mean, it helps obviously when you don't have as big of financial pressure.
Absolutely.
So then what happened? Did you have any interviews, or what was it, just kind of a one-shot deal?
I'd actually interviewed with quite a few firms, but I was trying to stick to Atlanta, and I'd connected with a few recruiters, and one of them actually was Jesse here with New Planner Recruiter. And I'd interviewed with quite a few firms, and then I'd come across Brown Draper Land at the time. And that was through Jesse, through New Planner Recruiter.
I mean, so the job market actually did recover as the stock market started kind of recovering.
Right.
But there were a lot of firms were still real nervous, very nervous, because they didn't know what was going on. Their billings earlier in the year were pretty bad. All right. So you wanted Atlanta. What type of position were you looking for, and how did you narrow that down? Because, and like I said a million times on this podcast, the beauty about financial planning, you can go to a lot of different firms, a lot of different channels, and do a lot of different things. So how did you know what you wanted to do?
I was mostly focused on size. I was looking for that boutique firm. I wasn't focused necessarily on the structure. So I wasn't necessarily looking strictly for an RIA, but I knew what I was looking for, which was a small firm, small amount of people, advisors that are looking to exit the practice over the next decade or two, essentially a succession play. That's what I was looking for, a way to quickly soak up knowledge, wisdom, and essentially, build into a firm that's already built and then continue to build off of it. Succession was certainly a play within that.
It's interesting to me. You said you wanted to go to a smaller boutique firm, which is great. That's how I got started. And I think you can have a lot of success there, and you have. But a lot of your colleagues, it seems like every year they want to go to Vanguard or Fidelity or Schwab. Like, why did you not pursue those opportunities?
Two things. One, I think the flexibility, I think the mess and maybe the storm of a small firm. Not everything's figured out. Not everything's in writing, and not everything's a structure. And I like that environment. The second one is I didn't want to be a number in some large firm. I wanted to have maybe a footprint and a personality and a unique touch to a business. Going to Vanguard, it's a very competitive, large scale atmosphere. It's corporate. It's different. I didn't want that.
So you got connected with BDL, and then what happened after that?
So actually, Jesse had come to me with BDL, and it was a small firm in Dalton. I wasn't interested. I wanted to work at Atlanta. I simply put, I was not interested.
And for those that aren't familiar, I mean, maybe just like Dalton's kind of out in the middle of nowhere, right? Like, an hour north of Atlanta? Is that
It's
right?
about an hour and a half. Yeah, about an hour and a half of Atlanta. It's just a small firm up in Northwest Georgia.
So you weren't interested. You shot us down, and then what happened?
Yep. And then Jesse had come back and he said, "Hey, they're looking to open up another location in Atlanta. Thought I'd, slide this past your desk again." And I was like, okay. Tough job market. Let me give it another shot. And so I went and I interviewed for it.
Yeah. And what do you remember, about the interview process, and just, any tips that you can give the listeners just when they're dealing with these employers and these firm owners on the interview process?
Absolutely. These firms know going in, if they're hiring someone out of college, they know that you don't know everything that you're looking for. They know that you're new. They know that you have a lot to learn. So don't stress for trying to have an answer for everything, but know who you are to some degree and know what you're looking for to some degree. And then really be able to communicate, at a basic level as well. I think that was super important with the small firm. They're looking for someone that can communicate to their client base effectively. They're looking for someone that they, I would say, connect well with or are similar to, but I wouldn't overstress. And I would, focus on being yourself and being unique. I think that's really important.
Yeah, we just had Kate Healy on episode 177, and she said the same thing, just communication skills, be able to talk, because they're always going to interview you with that lens of, can this person talk to my usually high net worth, affluent clientele?
Absolutely.
That's what they're thinking. And if you can, even though you might be rough around the edges or you don't have all the answers, you're just getting started, that's okay. They can work with that. But if you can't, that's a bigger hole than I think most of at least the smaller RIA firms want to have to deal with.
Absolutely. And, I'll definitely highlight on another point too, is like in my situation, people here were busy. They weren't preparing for this interview. It was just a few people that wanted to be involved, and they were pretty much doing it off the cuff. They've had a decade or two of experience. They knew pretty much what they were looking for. And it was really just a conversation. I didn't come in. And granted, though, I will say, obviously, I did all the nitty gritty, all that other things through you guys, doing the plan, doing the test, that was put through you guys. So by the time I got to the interview, all that stuff was out of the way. And it was really just focused on, who are you as a person? What are you looking for? What are your values? How can you communicate?
And let's just go back to the screening process for a minute. Why did you go through all that? That's pretty time intensive. Why didn't you just tell us to take a hike?
I quickly realized coming out of college that recruiters are valuable, especially the structure of this form of recruiting. It's mutually beneficial. So why not? It's just another channel to help you get to the next step. And coming out of college, a difficult job market, why not? I think it would have been a poor choice to not give you guys an opportunity.
So you got hired, and what were you doing right off the bat?
Right off the bat, I was soaking up everything I could. I spent a lot of time with, at the time, Denise Ambrose. I was soaking up everything I could. And it was a lot of new account openings, a lot of morning stars, a lot of learning simply, what are the account structures? And unfortunately, a lot of paperwork and really just opening and servicing accounts.
So learning that sort of the basis, sort of what I'm going to call more like the client service stuff, right?
Yes.
The cashiering, the account structures, the custodians, just the sort of the building block of what I'll say a successful new planner career, because you need to know that stuff at some level.
Yep.
Even these highly experienced firms, they did that at some point. They know what's going on. Now they can delegate. But all right, so you did that. And then what were you most fearful about starting your career?
Most fearful was probably something I was not anticipating, which was new account openings. It gets, once that was brought along my desk, I was like, ooh, this is actually quite stressful, especially as a new person. I mean, the amount of entities and even just, natural person accounts, it gets very complicated. The information you need, how you open them. So that brought a lot of stress. And whether that was warranted or not, it just did. It was, especially dealing with high net worth, you're trying to open up an entity account and you're just, you're a new employee. It was stressful.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. One client could have dozens of accounts, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, retirement accounts, taxable, tons of stuff, charitable stuff. I mean, and if you get a social security number wrong or you get an EIN number wrong, I mean, just like when you're wiring funds, you miss a decimal point. I mean, that's a big deal. And, I make a big deal about that. And you sort of got the lecture for me in class, like you've got to watch what you're doing. And I think a lot of these, at least what I hear from firm owners is like, yeah, they're just a little careless with details because they've never had someone say, hey, the stakes are super high. We can't have stuff like this.
You can't be making simple mistakes. As proficient as I feel like I've become and I'm continuing to become, I still harp on double and triple checking.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point. Thanks for bringing that up.
Mistakes happen. You had a little number mix up on an EIN. Oof, it's not fun.
What are you doing now? I mean, so you've been there about 3.5 years. What's your role look like now?
Role currently is I would say a hybrid. I still am involved with new account openings. I'm still involved with the maintenance, with the paperwork, with the service. I got licensed a year or so after to be able to do trading, and I still do trading. I find myself now really doing more larger deposits for trading. I don't do maybe the day-to-day small deposits. I do the morning stars. I do planning for meetings. Now I'm building it out of associate and lead advisor role. So I'm on more meetings, I'm putting plans together. I'm finding solutions for clients now.
And how's that transition been for you? I mean, did you feel ready to start doing that stuff?
I would say no and yes, but where I find myself being confident is being okay with not fully being ready. You never will be. And I think just being confident and knowing that you may need to use the resources around you and even communicate that to the client. You're not going to know everything, and that's okay.
It's a great point. I mean, it's almost like your client situation's like, yeah, Jeff, yeah, we need to save a little bit more. Once we're ready, then we'll have kids, or then we'll start to be like, you just got to go for it. You're never going to have enough money or save or whatever.
Yeah.
You're never going to be ready. Like, I love how you turned that back on me. That was good. Okay, so you're more the associate advisor, so more the client stuff now, and that's an obvious sort of logical transition. What's been the most fun part about your transition, or just looking back over your career the last almost 4 years? What's been the most fun and fulfilling part?
I love meeting with clients. As much as I love my alone time, I love communicating and learning about people, and I love just learning those little things, those little details. So going to these different settings, meeting these different people, learning about their lives. I just love learning about people's lives. I think it's so interesting. And of course, I love the planning and then incorporating, my role in that and how we can help service these people. But I love learning about people.
I mean, here you are in your let's just call it mid-20s. I mean, how are you relating to someone that's in their 70s or 80s?
Absolutely. It's funny. All throughout my life, I've always found myself gravitating towards wisdom, essentially. Ever since I was young, I would rather go talk to someone many more decades older than myself. I mean, ball games, my little brother's next to me. I would just start talking to a 40 or 50 or 60-year-old next to me. For some reason, ever since I was young, I've always been curious, and there's just so much wisdom to soak up. So to me, It's always been interesting. It's definitely a difficult task, and I have a lot to learn. So it's a work in progress.
I recently connected with one of my longtime clients that I've recruited for, and have put a couple new college grads recently in their firm, and one of them's now 25. And the firm owner was saying, look, I had this relationship with this client. I think it was a divorced woman for like 40 years. And, I brought the new planner you helped us hire into the relationship. And after 2 or 3 years, the client called and said, hey, can I just start meeting with the other person? It's like this Graham, like the client's 75 and the new planner's 25. And I'm like,
yeah.
Cheryl, you got to be kidding me. What?
Yeah.
And she walked me through why this client, like what the 25-year-old did. And they just connected, and they just had all this stuff in common. And they like hang out and stuff out. I'm like, wow, this is neat. So it's just, I share that just to because that was one of my biggest fears. Like, man, how am I going to, one, I'm scared of saying the wrong thing or not knowing what to say. 2, I don't know if you ever get over that. 2, like, how am I going to, I look like a kid, I'm 22. How am I going to get somebody in their 70s to take advice from me?
Absolutely. That'll always be an issue. But not every client is looking for the best performance, the best strategy. A lot of these clients are really just looking for someone to connect well with. And that's, I think, the core of our business is providing to our clients quality service, but also that trust and that connection. In some ways, that's more important. Along with the service, obviously, that right there is core. You got to be able to provide quality service.
It's kind of like, hey, I know if I go meet with Jeff and the guys over there, like, Jeff, they're going to listen to me. They're going to try to understand what I'm doing, and they're going to work their tail off, and they're going to fight for me. They're going to get on the phone and battle for me. Once the client sees that, you got them. Most likely, they're not going anywhere. Right? And that's just something, the tenacity. Just when I was younger, I'm just like, no, I'm going to get on the phone. We're going to try to get you a better rate. And the client saw that, and they're like, man, this is kind of like this. And that helped, even though I was 50 years younger, that helped, I think, build their confidence in me.
Absolutely. Yeah. And within that service, our response times, I think how quickly, we're able to respond and provide service. That is another small detail that just helps kind of smooth over that age gap.
Love it. Yeah, that's amazing. Well, Jeff, this is awesome. So what's next for you? What are you working on now? And really, where are you hoping to be going forward?
Yeah, absolutely. Working on the CFP. I hope to get that out of the way here in 2024. So that's the next big hurdle.
Just go take it. You already said you're good at tests. Just go take it. Don't even study. Yeah.
Oh, don't worry. We'll get there. We'll see. Yeah, that's the mindset. I'm going to probably force myself just to buy the test because you really do. And that's how I learn. And, I learn under stress environments. And sometimes that's just not being proactive with my studying. Hate to say that, guys. Study in advance. Look at calendars. Do not do that. Focus on time management. It's important. So yeah, I'm going to pass the CFP, hopefully, and then move on and start to transition from that associate to more and more of a lead advisor role.
And in your firm, what does lead advisor mean?
Yeah. So we've got a lot of clients, too many to service. There's a lot that are being almost filtered down through a channel. They're great clients for, let's say, someone like myself to learn and help. And another lead advisor, it just might not be worth their time. So that really looks like taking, now I would say I have about a little over 100 clients that I am assigned to. And of those, many, I would say the majority, I'm an associate advisor. And then as far as the lead advisor role, to answer your question, you're the front guy. You're the front, you're there for communication. They're going to look to you when they have a question. And then and I expect myself to find that solution. If I need to utilize resources around me, if I need to look to another lead advisor, if I need to look for someone else in my firm, I will go to them. But I'm the point, I'm that point guy, and I'm going to look to communicate that solution to the client.
Awesome. Well, Jeff, thanks for coming on the show. Any final tips or anything that you'd like to leave the new planner audience with?
Yeah, absolutely. You don't have to have everything figured out. You don't need a 4.0.
Nice.
And just be yourself and find something that you're passionate about, and everything else will fall into the right place.
Love it. Jeff, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of the New Planner Podcast. If you're ready to discover the top career paths for financial planners and see which track is best for you, we created a free guide to help you. Grab your copy of the Financial Planner Career Roadmap at newplannerrecruiting.com/roadmap. There, you'll also find more tools and resources all created to help you build a successful financial planning career. Tune back in next week for another episode, and until then, we're here to help you succeed.